Hey guys, coming in to be another movie review for you guys, and this movie I'm going to be reviewing. I initially didn't really know much about this movie, I have to tell you guys. I mean, I remember I saw the trailer on Movie Clips Trailers, that, you know, the site I always use, the YouTube channel I always use when I do trailer reactions, and I skipped this trailer because I thought this just looked like a really cheap, like, direct-to-DVD movie. It didn't really look like anything that interesting. I didn't really think much of it, and, basically, you know, I decided that, I'd check this out, because the more I heard about it, I heard a lot of praise. I heard this is actually a really great film. Some people even put it on their top 10 list. It has like an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm like, okay, I gotta check this out. And I started watching the trailer, and I stopped watching it because I didn't want to know too much about this movie. And finally, I checked down. That movie is Bone Tomahawk. And Bone Tomahawk is a movie that I've, been very interested in, because I've heard a lot of things about it, and I didn't really know too much about it. I've heard it's a lot of different things, and I checked it out. And overall, guys, what did I think of Bone Tomahawk? Bone Tomahawk is a lot of things. It's a modern-day Western classic. It's one of the most gruesome films of this year, and definitely one of the best films I have seen all year. I love pretty much every minute of Bone Tomahawk. I think it's a fantastic movie, and it's a movie that I definitely recommend you check it out, but it is not for certain people. There are certain people that are not going to like this movie, and I will tell you guys exactly why. Now, the plot to Bone Tomahawk, I have to be very secretive with. I don't want you guys to know too much about this movie, so I'm going to try to be as vague with the plot as possible, but also try to make you as interested as possible, because the plot in general should really intrigue you. Basically, the movie's essentially about four men. They go on this hunt, basically, after Patrick Wilson's character's wife. She basically went on this errand to get him some medical supplies, and the next thing he knew, she's not there anymore, and people just, like, start disappearing in this town. It takes place in the 1890s, I forgot to say, like, Western times. People start disappearing from this town, just weird stuff is going on, so the four men decide to investigate what's going on, and slowly they start to turn against each other, and eventually realize the true horror of what's going on, and that's all I can say about the movie, because I don't really want to spoil what's going on in this movie, because if I do, I really feel it's going to ruin some of the true, gruesome parts of this movie. Let me just tell you guys, this is one of the most brutal films I've seen all year, really. It's very brutal, it's very dark, and it's definitely not for the certain people. I will definitely say that. And I'm going to say that right off the bat. Now, part of what makes this movie so good is that, some of this movie could seem a bit ridiculous, because let me just tell you guys, this movie's not necessarily a Western. It might look like a Western from posters, but it's really, I'd say, a horror film in disguise, really. It's a horror film in disguise, and it works so well, I think, because of the acting and the characters in this movie, which were very well thought out, and I think everyone in this movie gives even some Oscar-worthy performances, honestly. There are some Oscar-worthy performances in this movie. I think they all did a very good job, and let's just talk about just the four men in general. They were all really great. Kurt Russell was great in this movie, obviously. I've never really seen Kurt Russell give a bad performance. He really did a very good job in this movie. Very solid stuff from him. Now, his character is really great. Sheriff Franklin Hunt, he clearly knows the way around. He knows, what to do as this sheriff. He really does a very good job at commanding the movie. But to me, at least, the real star of this film is Patrick Wilson as Arthur O'Dwyer. His character is fantastic. I really do love his character. In the beginning of the movie, in most of the movie, he has a very bad broken leg, and, you don't really know if he's gonna survive or not, and he probably shouldn't even be out there with this men, but because of how much he loves his wife and his determination, that really makes him want to go out and help her out, and it has so much, and his character is just so great in the movie. I thought he really did a great job. Patrick Wilson is on a hot streak with this and Fargo. He really did a great job in this movie. I definitely really loved his character, and definitely he was really great. I really loved his part in the movie. He has this one scene in the movie where they almost amputate his leg. Just, that is it's an amazing scene. I absolutely loved it. He deserves an Oscar for that scene. He really gave an amazing performance just in that one scene. He really did an amazing job. I thought he was really solid here. Matthew Fox as John Bruder, I also thought was really great, because Bruder is kind of the guy that doesn't understand why some of these men are on this journey with them. You have this guy, you have O'Dwyer, who he's crippled, and then you have this one other character that I'll get into, Richard Jenkins' character, but I thought he did a very good job. I definitely really like his character. He is the guy that kind of creates a lot of the tension in the movie, but they did a good job at not making him like an asshole They did a good job at having a guy that creates tension and not make him like an asshole. He just knows more about the world and isn't sure if these, men are up to the job, especially Richard Jenkins as Chicory, who the whole movie is basically just trying to prove himself. He's just trying to prove himself that he is this, man that Franklin should trust. He wants to be he wants to be the sheriff's right-hand man, and he's not really sure if he should be, and it's a very interesting scenario between these four men, especially when they start turning against each other. It's one of the most interesting parts of the movie. They really did a great job with that, and I really loved that. I thought they did a very good job with everything that happened in the movie. Lily Simmons is really great as Samantha O'Dwyer, and I also really have to give credit to where credit is due to David Arquette and Sid Haig. They're barely in this movie. They're in the very first scene, but their first scene is one of the best first scenes I've seen all year. I mean, it took me right into the movie. It carries the film and gets you right into the tone, and I really loved it, I have to say. Definitely, I think everyone did a great job. The entire cast was really, really good, and everyone, I think, really gave amazing performances. The directing here by S. Craig Zahler, I thought was very, very solid. Really great directing on his parts. But the thing I like about this movie is that it starts out like a Western. You really get a classic Western feel. I myself have not seen a lot of Westerns. I'm not like the huge Western fan. Not that I don't like Westerns, I just haven't really seen a lot of them. And I really got a classic Western feel from this movie. They did a very good job with doing that. But what I also like about the tone is how much it shifts. I mean, at first you think, okay, it's just a simple Western. Then you think it's a simple mystery. Then you think it's a simple just rescue film. But then you realize truly what's going on, and I think that's really what was so great about this movie. The different tones that S. Craig Zahler wanted to go in, I thought was perfect for this movie. His directing was really spot on. I definitely really liked his directing, and he definitely did a very good job with his directing. You really get a sense of the maddening world this is in. He did just a very good job of this directing. Really solid, and I definitely really loved it. The screenplay, I think, really is what carries this film, though. The screenplay is simply one of the best of the year. I absolutely loved the screenplay to this movie. It's such an intense and crazy screenplay. Like I said, the first scene really is a fantastic scene. I mean, it's simply these two men, and I don't want to spoil really too much about it, but it's these two men are just attacking and killing travelers camping in plains of the Wild West, and then after killing all these men, they're suddenly like attacked by this unknown figure, and we don't know what it is, and I thought they set that up very, very well. I like thinking this movie as split into three halves. The first half is your classic Western, where you have these two men. It's divided into like these two parts between Sheriff Franklin Hunt and then Arthur O'Dwyer, and then eventually it comes together in the second half where the men start turning against each other, and then you have the insane third half of this movie, which is one of the most insane climaxes I have seen all year. The climax of this movie is truly insane. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff the nightmares are made of. The climax of this movie is the kind of stuff the nightmares are made of. Anyone that's ever been in the Wild West, anyone that's ever seen something like this, you don't think the movie's going to go in the direction it does, and that's why I loved it so much. They did a very good job with that, and they did that very, very well. The movie, I think, also has very deep themes in it. It has much deeper themes about, like, proving that you're up to the task and willing to sacrifice, making sacrifices, doing things for other people and not for yourself, being a selfless person. The movie has a lot of themes of that, and I really enjoyed that. I think they did that very well. I didn't expect to get that out of this movie, but I thought they handled that very, very well, I have to say, and one of the most solid things about the movie was the way they handled all of those scenes. I definitely really love that. There are definitely some very classic scenes in this movie that I definitely really loved, and something I like the most that the movie never dragged for me. I was into it the whole time. I thought the screenplay was just so compelling that I stayed with it the whole time, and I definitely really love seeing it, especially seeing these four men. Each of these four men really have different ways of thinking. Some of them are more violent than others. Some of them want to handle things in a more civilized way. Some of them want to go the complete opposite of that, and it's really interesting to see how these four men are different, but the most interesting part is when they have to put all that aside and basically realize what they're really going through, and I definitely really like seeing what they're truly going through. He did a very good job with that, and I really want to talk about what they are going through. If you guys haven't seen Bone Tomahawk, honestly, click off of this video, because I don't want you guys to know really what's going on, because I really want to talk about what I really was impressed with in this movie, and let me just get into that. So if you guys haven't seen Bone Tomahawk, just go away. Okay, so if you guys are here, I'm assuming you watch Bone Tomahawk, or you just don't care, which, if you don't care, fine, whatever, but, it's not a huge spoiler, it's in the plot of the movie, but I just don't want you guys to know. I feel like I shouldn't say what it is, so I'm just gonna say it right now. Okay, so we eventually find out that the mysterious figures that are taking all these people are cave dwellers, and they are cannibals, and the direction that the movie decides to go in, it sounds really ridiculous. A Western movie with cannibals. That sounds like a B-movie sci-fi film, right? That very much is what this sounds like. That is not what this is at all. What they decide to do with this movie is really show how they're going to get out of this situation, show the pure gruesome stuff that they're going through. They really handled the horror very well in this movie, especially the fact that Patrick Wilson's character, Arthur O'Dwyer, has this broken leg throughout the movie. They used it so well because he just keeps getting worse and worse throughout the movie, and you just feel so bad for him. When the characters are grunting, you're grunting. When the characters are in pain, you're in pain, and they did a very good job with making us feel the inner trauma these characters are going through. And how can you not feel what they're going through? I mean, they're going through some really severe shit in this movie when they're ambushed by these cannibals. And what these cannibals do to them, I just thought were insane. They do things that I really didn't think we were going to see, and that's why I think the cinematography was so good in this movie. One, the cannibals look great. They did not look stereotypical at all. They just look like really just like determined humans. They did a good job with that, and I really enjoyed the way the cannibals look, because you don't really think there are cannibals out in this world, but there were cannibals then, and I thought they handled that very, very well here. It's a really scary movie to watch, and there are a lot of parts in this movie where I didn't want to watch, specifically the scalping scene. I didn't want to watch this. There's a scalping scene in this movie I didn't want to watch. There's a part where someone gets like they get like sliced open. I mean, there's some really gruesome things here, and I really applaud the movie for going in that direction. They did a very solid job with that, and I definitely really love that. Really gruesome stuff, but it's one of the reasons why the movie is so good, but also really hard to watch, honestly. I say this a lot, but this is definitely a movie that was extremely hard to watch, and I really didn't know what was going to happen. That's one of the reasons why the movie is so good. The fact that it's so hard to watch is one of the reasons why I think the movie is as good as it is, because you don't really know what direction it's going to go in, and you don't really know how the movie's going to end, and I thought they handled that very, very well, and I really love that, I have to say. And like I said, the screenplay is really compelling, and the cinematography as a whole, I just really enjoyed seeing. They did a very good job with both of those things. I was also really impressed by the score in this movie because there really isn't much of one. What I like about this movie the most is that one of the things I like the most that S. Craig Zahler really only used music when it was needed, and that really went with the gruesome tone of this film. You know, when you have a score to back up your movie, it can seem a bit cheesy at times if your score sounds cheesy. So I thought it was good that they made this very raw and emotional and dark. It really went with how crazy things were getting. You're expecting a score to happen, it never happens, especially the third act of this movie. You know, a score never happens, and it's really crazy to see, and I really like that, because instead of, you listening to score, they instead make you focus on these brutal visuals. I mean, brutal things. Really crazy stuff is going on. I thought they handled that all very, very well. I definitely really like that. But when they do use music, it is very good. You do get a Western feel from the music, and they handle that very well, I have to say, definitely. It really made me want to watch more Westerns. The costume design, I have to say as well, was really great, because again, you think you're just watching another Western. That's all you think this is going to be, is that this is going to be a Western, and that I thought was really great. Also, the title Bone Tomahawk is a very good title. I'm not going to spoil why, but it's a very good title. But, the score I thought was very great, and I definitely really liked it when they used it. It wasn't, one of the best scores of the year or anything, but the minimal use of the score I thought was very impressive. I definitely really liked the way the movie did that. The editing was perfect. I was into it the whole time. There's not one point where I wasn't into this movie, and especially the last, 30 minutes, I was honestly gripping on my seats. I was so into it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was so worried for these characters, and you honestly get worried for these characters because you think of yourself in this situation. What would you do? How would you get out of this? That's kind of what you start to think here is, how would I get out of this? How would I do this differently? Would I do the same things that some of these characters had? And honestly, yeah, some of the characters could have made better choices, but they really handled that very well, and I really like the way the movie basically got you to just think, how would I do this differently? And they did that very, very well, and I really like that. Definitely a very timeless story as well. Honestly, I do see this becoming a classic in a few years. I would definitely see some people checking out this movie and really see something in it that, you know, we might not even see now, and I think that's really great the way the movie forces you to do that. I mean, it's a horror film, but it's not a horror film in the way you guys think. It doesn't just use gore to use gore. The gore they use in this movie is completely necessary. They use it to show how menacing these cannibals are and how dangerous the situation is in, and how unlikely it is that they're gonna get out of this. They used it very well, and I definitely really like that. The movie is over 2 hours, but it needed to be over 2 hours in order to tell this story. They told a very compelling story, and I definitely really like that. And like I said, the movie isn't much of a Western as it is a horror film. It's also, I think, as much as a character-driven film as it is a Western film, because you care about the characters, you want them to get out of this, and especially the ending really made me feel this was a character-driven film all along, and I definitely really love that, I have to say. And also, the use of weapons in this movie is very, very well done. The violence is not excessive. They only really use the violence when necessary. If you guys are wondering if this is a very violent film, yes, when it's violent, yes, it gets very, very violent, but they only really use it when they need to. I noticed that there's a lot of times in this movie where they will stop and talk, and I thought that was very impressive that they did that, because a lot of movies nowadays are afraid to do that. They're afraid to have breaks when they stop talking and do that, but this movie really wasn't afraid to do that. They weren't afraid to go in depth with these characters, really try to create as classic as a film as possible, and I thought they did that all very, very well, and I was very impressed by that, especially the ending of this film. I did not see what happened at the end of this film to come at all. I expect this movie to end way differently than it did, and I definitely really like that. Specifically, who survived and who died. I did not expect the people that died to die, and I did not expect the characters to survive. It's really not a predictable film at all, and that's something I was very impressed by. You know, I was expecting this to be a very predictable film, but honestly, I really didn't have any complaints with this movie, and I was very, very impressed by that, and I really love that. So overall, guys, Bone Tomahawk is simply one of the best films of the year. I absolutely loved every minute of Bone Tomahawk. I can't recommend it enough to you guys. It's a really, really crazy movie, but it is definitely not for people that get very, if you guys have a problem with violence, if you guys have a problem with, themes of survival and things like that, this is not the movie for you. If you guys don't like that, you better not watch this movie, because you'll probably be traumatized by it. Even if you're not, you'll probably still be traumatized by it. In fact, there's things in this movie that I probably won't get out of my head, and I think it's really good the way the movie did that. When a movie sticks with you, and you remember the gruesome stuff, the movie did its job, because this is a movie where it's supposed to be gruesome. It's supposed to show you things you don't want to see, and they did that very, very well, because, made it more realistic. If you're really in this situation, this is what you'd see, and they did that very, very well. And especially scenes where, like, the cannibals, again, spoilers here, guys, but when the cannibals are coming up to them and, like, ripping things out, I mean, remember, they're watching this happen to them, and they did that very, very well, and I really enjoyed that, I have to say. This is a movie that I would love for more people to see. I really hope more people do see it by the end of the year, because it's a very small film. It's a movie that really wasn't made for a lot, and that's kind of the reason why the movie ends, the way it does, because they didn't, they could only go to a few locations. If you notice, the movie doesn't go in a lot of places. It goes to, like, the tavern, and then the house, and then to where the cannibals are, and the cave dwellers are, and that's really it. And I thought they did that very, very well. I was definitely very impressed by that. It really shows how you make a cannibal film, it shows how you make a horror film, and it shows how you make a very good character-driven film, and a good Western. So overall, guys, I am definitely giving Bone Tomahawk a 4.5 out of 5, or an A. I absolutely love this movie, one of the best movies of the year by far, will definitely be on my top 10 list. I absolutely loved it. I can't recommend it enough, and I definitely recommend you guys check it out. Alright, guys, so that's basically my review of Bone Tomahawk. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie, you have seen it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for another movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.